All right. Good morning. Good Monday to you, everybody. I'm hoping the audio is working here. It seems like it is. Yep, I think so. Uh, Sorry, my computer died about 5 times during the night because our power kept going off in that really strong storm that came through. And it went off again early this morning, and I just came down here and realized the computer was completely dead. So I had to get it all back up and running in just a few moments before it was time to go on the air. So it's 9 o'clock on July 20th. This is History 101, and we're going to be catching up with what we've done so far. And we will be we'll go over one section, I believe, this week, Section 5, Byzantium and Islam. And then next week we begin medieval Europe, and then on the last week, August 3rd week, we will conclude medieval Europe. So let me just scroll back here. I'm looking at the syllabus to see. In fact, I'll bring it where you can see it. There we go. Okay. In fact, let me just go ahead and blow it up here really big. And I'll make it even bigger so you can see it on this little YouTube screen. All right, so exam 2 is in the rearview mirror. That was the week of July the 6th. I'm pretty sure all the grades are in. If there's anything that hasn't been graded yet, you have an issue about it, a question about it, let me know. Let's see. And we also went over the Roman Empire section. We had an exam just on that, which I believe today is the last day. I believe today is the last day you can take the the third exam on the Roman Empire. It should be available on your content section of Blackboard until midnight. Pretty sure I set it to expire at midnight, so I would begin it before midnight, or you may not get to. Okay, and then, and that was what we went over last week. Yeah. So today, well, first thing is first, remember that your second little paper is due by midnight Friday. So just upload it the way you did the first one, by midnight Friday. And I'll get those graded over the weekend and into next week. And then this week, we're going to be looking at India and China, civilizations, chapters 14 and 15. And that will be, yes, that's right. So the final exam, the fourth exam, will cover part 5, Byzantium and Islam. It will cover India and China, which is a very short section. And it'll cover medieval Europe. So that's what'll be on, which is a much longer, oh, hello, Windows, which is a much longer section. All right, let me switch back here to, no, that's not the one I want. There we go. I don't need to be that big. All right. So let's go through India and China. I guess we got to the end of this one, but I can look and make sure. I had my third class on last Monday was interrupted with about 15 minutes to go by a leak in our water coming down into the basement from up above, and I had to jump up and run over and get towels and a bucket. So yeah, we're going to be putting out a lot of money now to get all that fixed. Let me scroll down here and make sure we talked about the caliphate. Yeah, the Sunni and Shiite split. Talk about the Battle of Tours. Okay, there's a question I'll get to in just a second. And the Seljuks, yeah, I remember talking about them, the Crusades. So we got to the Crusades. Oh, yeah, that, by the way, that was something else I wanted to mention. We got to the Crusades. We got through the first Crusade for sure. And your first video quiz is about the Crusades. I haven't looked yet to see if anybody has done it yet. I want to say that maybe when I looked at it a couple of days ago, hardly anybody had done it yet, which makes sense because you were doing the third exam. I just wanted to go ahead and get it out there where you could have, some time. So you've got a couple of weeks on it, I think, right? It's not due until almost the end of July. And then we'll do a second quiz probably on medieval Europe. But all it is I found it, again, because normally I would do the quiz on a video I show in class, but I only have it on DVD. So I can't really show it to you. And I looked around and couldn't find it anywhere for you to be able to stream it. So it seemed like what was fair would be to find something that everybody could have access to on YouTube and do a quiz on that. So I found a video on the Crusades that I thought was pretty good. And I watched it and created a quiz out of it and posted it for you. But I gave you more time to take it because I knew you were taking the third quiz this past week. Okay, so just make sure you go on. It's just like a 50-point quiz, and it's pretty much just stuff they talk about in the video. So if you're watching the video, you should be able to do very well on it. Someone asks, could we go over the extra credit on the paper due this week? Okay, let me look at that. And then we'll figure out where we are. I know I had it up here just a second ago. There it is. Okay. Okay. The writing assignment 2 extra credit option. To be considered for extra credit, you must put the words extra credit paper on the paper. That way I know to look for it as an extra credit paper. In other words, if you do all the other things, but you don't tell me it's an extra credit paper, I'm just going to assume you're trying to get 100 points. So if you're trying to get another like 10% or whatever it is, then let me see if I said how much. I think it gives you another 10 or 20%. Since it's a 100-point paper, I think it's 10 more points. But the good thing about that, though, is if you do a B paper, you still have the possibility of getting 10 more points. So you could get an A, right? In other words, a B paper could become an A if you do all the things that would give you extra credit. So to get extra credit, put extra credit paper on there so I'll know that that's what I'm looking at. Turn it in on time. Don't make it late because you lose that. you'd lose that extra points by being late. It must be at least 5 pages long. And you must use at least one source in addition to your main source. So in other words, 2 sources. Your main source is going to be either the Davies book or your textbook. Remember, I added the textbook as an option in case you are not able during the pandemic to get a hold of the book that I was originally using. So you must use it. Yeah. All sources must be cited properly. It must be a sources page. So just tell me where everything came from when you quote stuff and all. And follow all the other instructions up through writing assignment 2. And if you do all that, you're eligible to receive, I think, another letter grade on it. But as I say here, this makes it eligible provided it's sufficient quality. In other words, if you do a D paper, you're not going to get 110%. But if you do a D paper and you do all this, you might get a C, which would be better than a D, right? So hopefully that makes sense. You're doing the same paper you would have been doing. You're just doing a few little things extra to try to get some extra points on it. If you're not worried about extra points, then don't worry about that. Just do the paper the normal way. Okay? And if you have any other questions about it, just drop them in the comments or send me an email or whatever. Be perfectly fine. All right. I think that's everything. Let's see. I was trying to figure out if we got to the end. We talked about the Crusades, Siege of the Castles, the Mongols, the Ottomans, and that was it. Okay. Oh, one other interesting thing that was actually in the news yesterday about the Hagia Sophia is I may have mentioned that, for the first 1,000 years that it existed, it was the biggest Christian church in the world, Eastern Orthodox Church. And then for about 500 years after that, it was a mosque because Mehmet the Conqueror, there he is, conquered it in 1453. Well, in the early 20th century, Turkey became a secular state, meaning not an Islamic republic like Iran, but an actual, like a democracy, more or less, like us, that just happens to be Muslim, like, most of America happens to be Christian, but it's a secular state. And so the leader, Mustafa Kemal Ataturk changed it a third time, changed it to a museum. And so they've been, for the last 60 years or 70 years, they've been restoring the Christian and Muslim parts of the Hagia Sophia together so that anybody could go to Turkey, go to Istanbul, go inside that building, and anybody could look and say, oh, there's the Muslim parts from after 1453, there's the Christian parts from before. It's a museum for everybody, which was a wonderful thing, right? If you want to go to a great big mosque in Istanbul, you just go down the street to the Blue Mosque, which was a functioning mosque. But the Hagia Sophia back there was a museum. Well, the current leader of Turkey is kind of a populist trying to stir up the people to support him because he's not terribly popular right now. So he's trying to pick political stances that fire people up and would give him more support. And so on Friday, he got their legislature to pass a new rule saying that the Hagia Sophia is about to be turned back into a functioning mosque. It will no longer be a museum for everybody. It will just be a mosque. The UN is upset. UNESCO is upset. Everybody, a lot of people in Turkey are upset, but it's just disappointing because it means that, most of my life, one of the places in the world I've wanted to travel was to Istanbul to see that building. That building is over 1,500 years old. And it's just got so much history in it. And now it'll be a functioning mosque, and you won't really be able to go. It's not like they need another mosque. It's just that they are doing this it's a political ideology type of thing, So it's disappointing, but there we are. All right, well, let's get into we'll do India and China today, and then we'll leave off there, and all we'll have left our last 2 weeks for medieval Europe. Yeah. So the two biggest countries in the world today, but they've always been huge. It was just always proportional. Like today, India and China are here, and the rest of the countries are here. But back then, India and China was here, but the rest of the countries were here. It's just they've grown exponentially. They've always been the two biggest countries. So just a few things about India. The Gupta Empire, 320 AD. You can see the blue, green, Hey, are we back? Well, my power went out. And of course, that not only took my computers out, it also took out my internet connection. So what I'm going to do is, because I don't think a lot of people would hang around through all that blank, is I'm just going to end this broadcast and start a new one. And I will put the link to it because I can't edit. So I'll put the link in the announcement. So